heard that you do something fantastic and different. So.
Thank you. Well, I consider myself a mixed media artist because I do work in multiple mediums. I'm probably best known by the people who are familiar with my work for polymer clay, which is a man-made modeling compound that hardens in a home oven at a low temperature. Metal clay, which is pulverized metallurgy. It's pure silver, copper, and bronze that when you fire them at high temperatures just turn into pure metal. And designing with Swarovski crystal. I'm actually ambassador for Swarovski crystal.
Okay, and how long have you been doing that?
Well, professionally as an artist, I started about 25 years ago. I left a career in television. I have a background in journalism. I wanted to be home with my young kids and not put them into daycare. And so we cut back on our lifestyle, and I needed something to keep me occupied mentally. Started playing around with mediums, and almost immediately people were asking to purchase some of the things I made. And did production art for about 9 years, and was just thinking about going back into television production when I came to the attention of one of the companies whose clay I was using. And long story short, they started me on the road to being a designer. So, and then along the way I started developing my own products too.
Okay.
But my passion is teaching.
Okay, so your passion is teaching. You were working in production for quite some time, and then you became into the
polymer clay.
Polymer clay
Right.
designer.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so what exactly inspired you from? Why did you choose that medium versus being, okay, well, I'm going to be a painter, or I'm going to tie my time up and sew clothing? Just basically what inspired you to do something so different? Because a lot of times people think of the artist or craftsman as someone that does these basic, everyone knows, pen, pencil, marker, paint.
Right.
How did that happen?
That's funny you say that, because whenever people ask me, what do you do? And I say I'm an artist, they say, what do you draw? What do you paint? Okay? And people kind of put artistry in just that narrow box. And art is it's more broad than that by a long shot. I do like drawing and painting, but I found that if I wasn't in the right frame of mind, I couldn't perform or execute work that I was happy with. And having young children around, a lot of the things I was doing for a hobby level, I was doing work with stained glass, I was working with fine art mediums and oil paints. They weren't conducive to have around children. A lot of, paint thinners and brush cleaners and things that were dangerous. So I had seen polymer clay in a local craft store, and I saw it was non-toxic and it didn't dry out like normal earthenware clay. And I just started playing with it. It was very forgiving and user-friendly, and it was actually something that I could do with my children alongside me, very safe. So it's amazing that you can mimic almost every material known to man except for clear glass or polymer clay. You can make it look like wood, fabric, metal, just goes on and on. Natural stones like turquoise. And, there's no end to it. And I became very enamored of it. And then I realized you can mix it with almost everything because it bakes at such a low temperature you can even fire it with paper. So, and it was nice, you could walk away from it and come back to it a month later and it doesn't dry out. So I just really started playing with it and did some techniques I discovered on my own, and it's like magic. I've been doing it for 25 years along with other mediums. I still continue to work with paint, fabric, paper, but it was just so easy. And one thing that I found, a lot of people, they either think they're creative, artistic, or they're not. And I believe everybody's an artist. And I know, and it's not me, I can show anybody how to create something beautiful, even if they think they're not creative, because there really is no secret. I think it's just the way you go about it. I think because we were so used to feeling the world and experiencing the world through our hands, that we're tactile. Everybody's very tactile, and everybody is really good at creating dimensional, painting and drawing, two-dimensional. But with their hands, the relationship of what they understand, what they're creating, the translation from their hands to their brain is so much different than trying to render an image. And so people who really have trouble with painting and drawing usually are very good at three-dimensional creativity.
Okay, that's a very good tip, because a lot of children, they think, oh, I can't draw, I'm not an artist. So if you can state that again, a little bit louder and like.
Absolutely. Anybody can create. Everybody's an artist. And I say, basically, you have to find your canvas. Now, some people who start with clay, they find that's not their canvas, but it turns them on to the knowledge that, wow, I really can do stuff. I really can make something, a thing of beauty. And I see that especially when I teach children. I see that they kind of get in a zone where they're not really aware of what the child to the left or the child to the right is doing. Usually when there's drawing going on, kids will look and say, oh, their house looks better than mine, or their car looks more realistic. When I go in and I teach children to work with clay, they're just in the zone and they become oblivious to everything around them, and they're just enamored. They're like, and you see it, you hear it, they're like, I can't believe I made that. They're so happy with themselves.
What advice would you give to a parent? Because I think when you stated that you wanted to be, you knew you had this passion inside of you. You were testing out different things, but you wanted to be child friendly. You wanted it to be child conscious. You also wanted to incorporate that with your children. What advice specifically to a mother or father, or a guardian in general that's in that position that wants to, let's say, use power tools in the house and create something, but is scared to because they're scared of one day something,
going wrong.
Right. So what advice can you give out?
Okay. Well, there's so many mediums. I love to work with so many things, but for me, I think that's the number one for children and adults, but particularly for children, it's inert, it's non-toxic. The kids can play with it over and over like they would modeling clay, or you think of Play-Doh, but it's much more sophisticated than those. Even though they can play with it for years, it will never harden until they bake it at the right temperature in the oven. There is literally thousands of resources on the website. If you Google polymer clay, it'll be overwhelming, but there's so many websites and resources devoted to giving step-by-step instructions for children, and simple ones, breakdowns by photo, not a lot of words or text. It's something wonderful that a parent can sit down and create alongside their children, making ornaments or embellishments for their room, covering a switch plate, making little zipper pulls for their backpack. But the beautiful thing, it's not messy, it's inexpensive, and the kids can work with it the same way they might with paints. If you blend red and yellow clay together, they're going to get orange, or they can stop somewhere in between, and then they've got a marbled effect. It's so forgiving, they can't make a mistake. And art, a lot of people in society want to think of it as extracurricular. Schools have cut back on budgets, teachers are paying out of pocket to buy materials for their classrooms. Art is so much more, and not just art, anything creative, music and art, even learning to garden. It's essential to life skill. We learn so many things that shore up our ability to be good citizens and good people through things like art and music, about how to take calculated risks, how to, because art, it's a platform where if you make a mistake, it's not life-threatening, or it's not going to jeopardize your safety or your financial well-being. And it's a place where children can grow and challenge themselves. Not every child's going to grow up and be an artist, but every child must play with arts and music and creative elements in order to be well-rounded, and it enhances their ability to be better at math and be better at English. It's so essential. I go into junior high and high school classes, and I hated math. I'm not interested in math, but when I learned about geometry and as it relates to creating tessellated repeating patterns like Escher did, and I teach that to high school students and junior high students,